An Oakland County judge will soon decide if Ethan Crumbley will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. Crumbley's Miller hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. He was 15 years old at the time of the Oxford High School shooting in November of 2021 that killed 4 students and hurt 7 others. Crumbley pled guilty to all 24 charges in October of 2022, which included murder and terrorism. During his Miller hearing, the judge will consider what was happening in Crumbley's life leading up to the time of that mass shooting. Factors can include intergenerational trauma, adverse childhood experiences such as abuse and neglect, mental health issues, and family dynamics. Tina Olson is the managing attorney of the Juvenile Lifer Unit at the Michigan State Appellate Defender Office. Olson is not involved with the Crumbley case. However, she investigates juvenile cases to establish her client's need to be sentenced to a term of years so they can someday see the parole board. She says this group is successful with a 1% recidivism rate in Michigan.
You look at somebody as a teenager, you can't predict how they're going to be in the future. When you look at someone when they're an adult, as the parole board can do when you have a term of year sentence, you know how they're going to do. You know, the ultimate question being, can you look at some 15 or 16 or 17-year-old and say, you're never going to be rehabilitated, you deserve to die in prison?
The Miller versus Alabama case was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2012. In that decision, mandatory life without parole was determined unconstitutional for juveniles. Olson says the purpose of the case was to recognize a large body of brain science that establishes teenagers are very different from mature adults and that the brain does not fully develop until the age of 25. Governor Gretchen Whitmer is adding new laws to the state that add on to previous efforts to bring and keep more teachers and school counselors in Michigan.
Our political reporter Rachel Louise Jaws tells us how this group of bills is different from others.
We're at a time now where we should be doing everything we can to keep teachers.
7 new bills signed into law today by Governor Whitmer, all aiming to tackle a key problem Michigan has been facing for years, a teacher and school staff shortage, specifically with school counselors. The bills would expand teacher union bargaining power and take down barriers to getting more teachers from out of state to Michigan. According to the American School Counselor Association, 250 students to 1 counselor is the recommended ratio for schools. In Michigan, it's 638 to 1, according to the most recent data available by the association. That's the 3rd worst in the nation.
There aren't enough of these to go around in the state of Michigan right now, just like teachers.
Senator Sean McCann's bill aims to smooth out the process that gets counselors from other states into Michigan. On its journey through the legislature, not one lawmaker voted against the bill.
Everyone sort of sees the need for this, and it's it's a tool in the toolbox.
One piece of legislation that did not gain as much bipartisan support is Senator Stephanie Chang's bill to get rid of a restriction on teacher pay that only applied to Detroit teachers.
It's that level of fairness that we need for our Detroit teachers who work really hard against tough odds.
Republicans raised concerns that this would give too much power to teacher unions. Both McCann and Chang say they were motivated to introduce the bills as another way to give agency and respect to a profession that has sometimes been villainized.
When sometimes education issues get used as political football is really damaging, and we're losing teachers from the state of Michigan.
In Lansing, Rachel Louise Just.
Republican Representative Ken Borton says that 3 House bills signed by Whitmer today will, quote, enable union bosses to bargain over key school decisions and take power away from elected school boards and parents, adding that the bills eliminate protections for students in favor of unions.
Michigan experienced a slight increase of induced abortions last year. The data is from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. It shows people are now traveling to Michigan where it's legal to get an abortion. Mid-Michigan Now's Courtney Bennett joins us to break down the numbers. Courtney.
Stella, women are coming from as far as Texas to come to Michigan for an abortion. Planned Parenthood of Michigan tells me they are seeing many people from Indiana as well. The Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last year. It meant that states could decide if abortion was legal. Here in Michigan, Proposal 3 was voted in November. That allowed for abortions to happen here. It overturned a 1931 law that criminalized abortion unless the mother's life was at risk. Other states, however, have banned abortions.
The patients that we see traveling here from out of state are much more likely to be further along in their pregnancies, to be experiencing complications because their care was delayed in trying to overcome all of these barriers, book travel, find a state where it's legal, and get the funds to enable that travel.
Planned Parenthood of Michigan tells me they have seen the amount of people traveling to Michigan for an abortion triple since Roe v. Wade was overturned. I reached out to Right to Life of Flint for an interview, but I have not heard back.